Hello everyone, my name is Rajni Jha. Welcome to Drishti IAS. So today we are going to continue with our fifth chapter we started yesterday of Polity Class 9th NCERT, new NCERTs. Before I start with the session, I would like to know if I'm audible and visible to all of you. Can you confirm? Am I audible and visible to all of you? All right. Great. Yes. Good evening. Good evening, Ananya, Naveen. All right, great. So I hope you thought about our last question. I gave you a question to think about reservation, and I can see that most of you have answered as well, and I'm really glad about it. So there are some answers that I really loved. All of you have said yes, in a way reservation is important because people have been discriminated against. Historically, they have been disadvantaged, and that is absolutely right. Yes. So Asmita has answered this question. Adi has answered this question. Shushmita has also answered another question which I asked, which article is Article 23, 24, 25, 28? These questions you have answered. Great. So I am really glad about the fact that you guys have answered my question. This makes the class much more interactive. Okay, great. So let's continue with our session. Let us continue with our session. Yes. All right, so I asked you to think about reservation. We will talk about it. We will talk about Article 14, Article 15 and Article 16, and all of them tell us how equality and identical treatment is not the same. So equality does not mean you have to treat somebody identical. You have to treat people identically. Equality does not mean that. In fact, in our constitution, when we talk about equality, it is talking about substantive equality, equity in a way, where we provide people what they need in order for them, all of them, to come on a level playing field and then grow from there. Yes. The creamy layer, see, in yesterday's session, I told you that in OBC reservation, there was a creamy layer that was defined. It simply meant the people who are already wealthy will not get the reservation. Now, we cannot go in much detail because if we start going in detail in every rights, every fundamental right, then this chapter itself will take at least 5, 6, 7 sessions. In fact, the fundamental rights are so such a huge part of our syllabus. So what we'll do is we'll continue with our NCERTs, whatever is given within the bounds of NCERT, as I tell you in every class, we will just stick to that. And as the class progresses, of course, all these topics will come again in class 10th, 11th, and they will come again in depth. So we will talk about them in depth in those particular chapters. All right. So for those of you who are new to the session, let me just tell you, we have our live session on YouTube every day at 6 p.m. from Monday to Friday. And we are covering new NCERTs here. We have started with Polity NCERT, class 9th. And after this, we will go with class 10th and 11th. And then we'll start with geography, most probably. Yes. Mains question. Beta, I'll give you mains question. Don't worry. I also have this thing in my mind. I'll give you mains question. But let me just finish this chapter first. Let me just tell you what exactly we are going to study, because this will take another session. This chapter is such a huge chapter. Even though I'm not going in depth, it's going to take one more session. So in tomorrow's session, probably we'll be done with this chapter, and then I'll give you mains answer writing practice. And don't worry, you don't have to do 2 questions every day. But if you do just 1 question every day, that is going to show you substantial improvement in your answer writing. Okay, that is going to show you substantial improvement in your answer writing. Don't worry about it. You just have to be very persistent with it, and you have to do it efficiently, regularly. That's all you need to do. The number does not matter as much as the frequency. Okay. The PDFs, yeah, I actually forgot to talk about it. I will talk about it with the team and then I'll let you know. So let's get started with the session without further ado. Otherwise, it's going to take so many sessions for the just one chapter that we won't be able to finish anything at all. So yesterday we were talking about Article 14. We were done with rights. Why do we need them? What exactly are rights? We are done with it. So we were talking about Article 14, and I told you in Article 14, in the same sentence, there are 2 expressions. These are not clauses, these are expressions. So there are 2 expressions in the same article, Article 14, which is equality before law and equal protection of laws. Now, what is equality before law? I told you yesterday as well, it is a negative concept. That means it shows what state cannot do. So state cannot discriminate without any reason. And no one is above the law. Everyone is subject to same ordinary law. It doesn't matter if you are a clerk or you are at a very substantial, very important position. It does not matter. You will be treated with the same law. You will be subject to the same law. That's what it talks about. And equality before law, as I told you yesterday, is based on A.V. Dicey's concept of rule of law. Rule of law, you have to remember A.V. Dicey. You will find this in Lakshmikant as well. And this is taken from, this is a British concept. This is taken from British Constitution. The second part was equality, equal protection of laws. Yes, please hold on to your questions. I will answer your questions after we are done studying a little bit. Okay, next is equal protection of laws. As I told you, this is the positive concept. Now, negative and positive does not mean here right or wrong. It just means wherever there is a concept of not and wherever there is a concept of any affirmative action or positive, there is no concept of not. In that case, we call it positive. So here, it tells the state what the state can do, right? Here it tells the state what the state can do. The state can come up with affirmative actions. State can come up with affirmative actions to provide substantive equality, to provide equality to everybody. So that's what state can do. It is a positive concept. Here we are talking about like should be treated alike, equal should be treated equally. So two people, like I gave you the example yesterday also, let's say in school there is a rule that nobody will cheat. Now that is a common rule and everybody will be treated with that rule, right? No matter who you are, which class student you are, this is a common rule and everybody will be treated with that rule. That is a common rule for everyone. So that comes under equality before law. But if the school says that people, the students who are, let's say, blind, there are blind students, right? And they are writing the test. So maybe they need somebody to help them. Maybe they need some extra effort, maybe they need some extra help. So that extra help can be done and that comes under equal protection of laws because the condition have changed. The conditions have changed. Those, the normal students and the students who are may have some physical disadvantage, they are not on the same level, they are not in the same group. And because the groups are different, they can be treated differently. So differential treatment is allowed if the groups are different. That's what it talks about. Equal protection of laws talks just about that. All right. Yes, I will talk about the PDFs. Don't worry. Great. So equal protection of laws means equal treatment for equals. And here reasonable classification is allowed. This is called reasonable classification. That you can classify groups. They just have to be reasonable. There has to be a valid reason for that. And there are two tests for it, but we are not going there in that depth, in that direction. Just remember that reasonable classification is allowed. That means that groups can be classified on a valid reason. And on that basis, then they can be treated differently. That is equal protection of laws. Now, this equal protection of laws is based on US Constitution. There is a concept in US Constitution called Equal Protection Clause. Now, from that, we have taken this. So, this is the British concept. This is US Constitution concept. Is it clear to everyone? Yes. Great. Next, we have Article 15. Now, Article 15 talks about prohibition of discrimination. Yesterday, I gave you a mnemonic sort of a thing to remember these articles from 14 to 18. What was it? What was the statement that I gave you? That was law removes doubt, D-O-U-B-T. So here law is equality before law and equal protection of laws. That is Article 14. Then we removed the remove. D is discrimination, Article 15. O is opportunity, Article 16. U is untouchability, Article 17. And this is abolition of titles, or from here, just to match this, I said ban on titles. So this is Article 18. So now we are done with Article 14. We'll talk about Article 15, which is based on discrimination. So Article 15 talks about prohibition of discrimination, that you cannot discriminate. Who cannot discriminate? The state cannot discriminate. Now let's together read this statement once. There's a very important word, there's a very important point in this article, Article 15 statement itself. Most of us miss it, but we will not miss it this time. It says, Article 15 says that the state cannot discriminate against any citizen only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. You have to tell me which is that one word that I'm talking about. I said there's one word which is extremely important here. Which is that word? There is one word which is extremely important here. Which is that word? If you can catch that word, this article will become a piece of cake for you. I repeat, I said you have to tell me in this Article 15, it says state cannot discriminate against any citizen only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. Which is that one word which is extremely important in this statement, which carries the essence of this article? Yes, you have to start thinking for yourself. We always say that. Language, untouchability, caste. Okay. What about others? Why are you not answering? Caste. Great. Anyone else? Discrimination. All right. I'll just take 2 or 3 more answers. Which is that one word that is extremely important here? Okay. Now all of you have already answered and most of you have said caste. No. Very good. Some of you have said only. Extremely important word here is only, which looks so harmless, but this is very important. What does that mean? That you cannot discriminate only on these grounds, these 5 grounds. What are these 5 grounds? Religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. So you have civil services prelims, civil services prelims. We don't want discrimination in that, right? So civil services prelims and RR. These are the 5 things where you cannot discriminate. Only on the grounds of these you cannot discriminate. So does that mean I can discriminate on some other grounds? Yes, you can. And discrimination always is not negative. It is also positive. So when we talk about affirmative action, in a way we are discriminating, but that is positive discrimination for substantive equality and that is allowed. You get my point? Yes. So this is why the statement becomes very important. So it says that state cannot discriminate only on these grounds. So state cannot say, oh, you belong to this particular religion, so you will not get this job. Just on the basis of religion or someone's race or caste or sex or place of birth. You're a woman, you cannot do this job. You're a man, you cannot do this job. If the reason is just this, then it is not allowed. But if you add a valid reason with it, if you add a reasonable ground with it, then you can discriminate. For example, the state can say that in order to practice medicine, you should have MBBS degree. Now, in a way, we are discriminating. Why can't everybody treat everyone? Because for that, there is a valid reason that you need that specific knowledge in order to treat patients. So you have a valid reason. So you can discriminate if you have a reasonable ground. You cannot discriminate only on these grounds. You get it? If the state says that in order to treat patients, you should have a degree, medical degree, that is also discrimination. But that is allowed because that is very reasonable. So it says the state cannot discriminate only on these grounds. However, reasonable classification is allowed and state can discriminate on the basis of age, educational qualification. For example, in your civil services examination also, there is an age criteria given. Isn't that discrimination also? Why can't everybody write the exam? Right? So that is allowed. That is reasonable classification. Is it clear to everyone? It should not be just arbitrary. It should not be like, oh, they just said anything without any valid reason. That discrimination will not be allowed. Otherwise, reasonable is allowed. So as you have already seen that Article 14 provided the foundation. Article 14 said that different groups can be differently treated. That's what we studied in Article 14. So it provided the base that if you can classify groups and the groups are different, then they can be treated differently. Now Article 15 is like a building on that foundation. Article 15 is saying, okay, now that you have classified the group, if you have reason, then you can discriminate them. Is it clear to everyone? I hope I'm making sense to all of you. Okay. Now there are some clauses in Article 15. In NCERTs, these are not given, but I will just give you a brief about them. Please hold on to your questions. I'll answer them in a while. So Article 15 Clause 1, this is Article 15 Clause 1. This is Clause 1, which talks about that the state cannot discriminate only on the grounds of these 5 things. RR, CSP, which is religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. Okay. Then there is Article 15 Clause 2. Clause 2 talks about the fact that no citizen can be denied access. here, access cannot be denied to public places. You cannot say, oh, you belong to this particular caste, you cannot enter this public place, you cannot enter this park. You cannot say that. That is not allowed. So no citizen can be discriminated, no citizen can be denied entry to shops, any public place for that matter, on these grounds. Okay. Sudhir, I would love to make it bilingual. It's just that this channel is particularly English. So on this channel, we are trying to maintain that clarity of language and the fact that it is English, so I will be teaching in English. Maybe in future, if we have a channel which is bilingual, then I'll be continuing with bilingual as well. Okay. Yes. Next is Article 15, Clause 3. Please hold on to your questions. I will answer in a while. And for those of you who are still new, who have just entered the class, we have our class every day 6 p.m. from Monday to Friday. It is live series for new NCERTs. We have started with Polity, class 9th. Okay, so next is Article 15, Clause 3, where it says that state can make special provisions for women and children. For example, there is separate hostels for women for their safety, or there is maternity benefits for women, or there is some scheme specially for girl child. So state can make special provisions. Now, I know for a fact that women have been historically disadvantaged, and in any case, because they give birth and that is very taxing on their body and mind, then that group is different from general group. That group is different from men. And on that basis, I can give them some maternity benefits because we see anyway maternal mortality rate is very high, right? So now that on the basis of Article 14, I have separated the groups. I have differentiated the groups, I can give a valid reason and then make special provisions for them. This is positive discrimination and this is allowed. So this is Article 15, Clause 3. Next is Article 15, Clause 4. This says, this specially talks about socially and educationally backward classes. That state can make special provisions, special laws for socially and educationally backward classes. Now, this is something you should be keeping in mind. I'm not just talking about socially backward. I'm talking about socially backward and educationally backward. Both has to be fulfilled. So, socially and educationally backward classes, then scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Right? Here we are talking about special provisions. So this actually is taking you towards reservation now. Right? Next is Article 15, Clause 5. Beta, for Hindi medium, we have Hindi channel. There is Drishti IAS channel, which is in Hindi. This is Drishti IAS English. So this is an English channel. Okay? Okay. Next is Article 15, Clause 5. Here we are talking about this one. Okay, so here we are talking about the fact that these people can get reservation in educational institutions. In the previous clause, I said that the state can make special provision for them. Here I'm specifically saying that they can get admission in schools, in colleges. So they can get admissions in educational institutions, including private educational institutions. Now that is very important. There's only one exception to this, and that is they cannot get reservation in minority educational institutions, because we will talk about this in Article 30, where the minorities can protect themselves, they can have their own institutions, and there in the reservation they don't have to give reservation to everyone, because that is specifically minority institution. So this allows reservation in admission in educational institutions, also in private institutions. Then the last, we already know there is 10% reservation given for economically weaker section, EWS, which Constitutional Amendment Act gave birth to this particular clause. 10% reservation for EWS, which Constitutional Amendment Act gave rise to this particular clause? Can you tell me? Yes, everyone. See, you have to keep interacting. See, I'll give you one simple logic to this. So when you answer, I always ask questions, right? So when you answer a question, and if that is wrong, your brain becomes very active. Oh, this was wrong. I have to pay attention to it. So now you will remember it for the longer time. If you get it right, then I'll tell you you're right. And in that case, again, there is a reward system in our brain which feels like, oh, I was right. So you will again remember it for a long time. So whether you give me the right answer or the wrong answer, it's a win-win situation for you. So keep interacting. Whenever I ask you a question, always answer that in the classroom. Yes. So which Constitutional Amendment Act gave rise to 10% reservation for EWS? 103rd. Very good. Yes. Ananya, Divyansh, Sankalp. Everybody has started answering. Very good. I'm very impressed. Yes, it was 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Next is Article 16. Article 16 talks about DOUBT. Law was 14. This was 15. This was 16. So opportunity is 16. So Article 16 talks about equality of opportunity in government employment. That every citizen has equal opportunity for public employment. That's what it talks about. Now here again they have provided reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward classes and women and person with disabilities. The logic is the same. In Article 14 we realize that we can divide group on the basis of reason. We can give a valid reason and divide groups. That is called reasonable classification. Then in the Article 15 we saw that if we give a valid reason, we can give them reservation, we can do positive discrimination. And this is just an extension to it. Earlier we gave them reservation in educational institutions and we make special provisions for them. Here we are also giving them reservation in employment opportunities because the reason is the same. These groups are little different from the rest of the population because they have been historically disadvantaged, and now we need to bring about some positive changes for them in order for them to be at the same level as the rest of the society. Now some of you answered in the comment section that people also take advantage of it. People who actually need reservation, people who actually need affirmative actions are not getting benefit of it. And I completely agree with it that there are loopholes, there are people taking disadvantage, there are people taking advantage of this particular idea and provision. But at the same time, just because say 5% people are taking advantage, can we ignore the rest of the population? That is the ethical question that we have. We cannot, right? We should take every step possible for those people who do not need reservation, who do not need affirmative action, to stop them. But we cannot stop affirmative action altogether because it is going to affect the rest of the population, which is a huge number, right? We also have to think about them. Okay. So this was Article 16. Now, as we have seen, up until now, you must have understood that equality is not equal to identical treatment. Equality does not mean that I will treat everyone identically. That if I'm giving one person something, I should give this next person also the same thing and the next person also the same thing. That is identical treatment. Equality does not talk about identical treatment. When we talk about equality, we talk about substantive equality, meaning we help people who have been left behind. We help society, the section of society who has been left behind, so that everybody can come at the same level. Once they are at the same level, then you can talk about merit. You cannot talk about merit if you have left a group behind and the one group is already ahead, because these have been disadvantaged. So this is not equality. We have to bring them together first. We have to bring them on the same level first, and then we can start the competition. Then you can talk about merit. Until then, it is not merit. Got it? Great. Next, so we know that equality does not mean identical treatment. And when we talk about equality, we talk about equality of outcome, equality of opportunity, that everybody should have same opportunity, not treatment. I'm not treating everyone the same. I'm trying to provide equal opportunity to everyone so that the outcome can be equal. That is the difference. Is it clear to everyone? Very good. Next is Article 17, and Article 17 would be untouchability. So it talks about abolition of untouchability. This says that our constitution abolishes untouchability and makes its practice punishable by law. Now the point here is the word, this untouchability, is not defined in our constitution. It is not defined. In case you are asked in the examination, is untouchability defined in our constitution? No, it is not defined in our constitution. Through court verdicts, we know that untouchability means when we practice caste system and untouchability born out of it, that is punishable by law, that is not allowed. Right? So Article 17 talks about untouchability, but our constitution does not really define it. It talks about abolishing untouchability, making its practice punishable by law. But this untouchability that we are talking about is specifically the one that is born out of caste system, which is still a part of India. Yes, Ashish, it is not defined. All right, great. Moving on. So untouchability includes if you deny somebody access to public places, if you socially exclude them because they belong to a particular caste, if there is caste-based discrimination, all these are examples of untouchability. For example, in tea stalls, you must have seen there are separate cups kept because these cups will be used for people of certain caste, or these cups will be used for people who are the working class. So that is a practice of untouchability, right? And usually the labor class or the working class is usually from lower caste. Especially in village areas, you will still see this practice going on even though we have strict laws against it. Next we have the Article 18. I'm writing it again and again so that you can remember it. So this was 14, 15, 16, 17 and this was 18. So it is about titles, that you cannot have titles, and these titles do not include military or educational title. For example, you can use doctor before your name. That is not considered a title. That is sort of a qualification. That is sort of an achievement. That is not a title. Or military titles, for example, colonel, lieutenant. So you can use those for military distinction. You can use academic distinctions. You can use, but apart from that, you cannot use any other title, whether it is given in India or it is given to you by somebody outside of India. So it talks about abolition of titles because the Constitution does not want to enjoy special social or legal status just because the government has conferred it. So it is a way of looking at everybody as equal. Just because the government has given you a title, you'll keep the title and you'll feel special about it. That is not the right way to think. That is what Constitution is saying, right? So it talks about abolition of titles. All right. Next we are done with 14 to 18. Yes, Ananya, I know for a fact that in villages it is still being practiced. In fact, in metropolitan cities also, there are certain pockets where people are living like this and they follow this, even in towns, even in cities. So it is still there. Anyway, next is Article 19 to 22, which talks about freedom. Especially in Article 19, we talk about 6 freedoms. There are 6 freedoms mentioned in Article 19, very important, because it talks about the freedom of speech and expression. Okay, Dhaneshwari, Bharat Ratna and Padma awards are not considered title. It was not there here in NCERT, that's why I did not include it, but they are not considered titles. You can find this specifically in Lakshmikant. It is mentioned that they will not be considered titles. Okay. Next is, we have 6 freedoms in Article 19. The first is freedom of speech and expression, right? We know about this. This means that you can express your opinions, you can criticize the government, you can write anything and publish anything, you can write art, poetry, but that does not mean that you will use that right to defame somebody. You have the right to freedom of speech and expression, but if you use it for rebellion, if you use it for defamation, if you use it for defaming anybody, or if you're trying to incite violence and that's why you're using it, that is not allowed, right? That will not be allowed. Okay. The next right in this we have is freedom to assemble peacefully. You can assemble somewhere, like if you're having a protest, you would want to assemble somewhere, right? So you can have peaceful protest, you can assemble somewhere, but peacefully. You cannot make it violent. So assembling somewhere peacefully is also your right. You can hold meetings, you can hold conferences, you can demonstrate something, so you can conduct demonstrations, but you have to make sure that it is peaceful. Weapons or violence is not included, is not a part of this. Then it will not be your freedom. Next is freedom to form association, union or cooperative society. Now, this talks about the fact that you can make trade unions, you can be a part of NGOs, or you can be a part of anti-corruption groups. Yes, exactly, Tejaswini. It talks about the fact that you can protest but peacefully. So here you can form associations. Next is freedom to move freely throughout India. I think all of us have enjoyed it. We can move anywhere throughout India. Nobody stops us. Nobody says that, oh, you belong to that particular state, you cannot come here. I mean, if you do not use regional sentiments here, because that is anyway not allowed, it is your freedom, it is your right to move to any part of the country, anywhere in the country. You can also reside anywhere in the country. You can live anywhere in the country, right? So there are so many people who are from, say, UP and Bihar, and they are living in Delhi. So migration is very normal here, especially in India. especially from rural to urban areas. So you can reside anywhere, you can settle anywhere in the country. And finally, you can practice any profession or carry out any occupation, trade or business. So you can choose your profession as per your convenience. You can practice any profession. That is also allowed, right? And there will not be any discrimination based on gender or caste. That is a given up until now. There are some new students. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. The new people who are here. We have our sessions every day at 6 p.m. live on YouTube from Monday to Friday, and we are covering NCERTs, new NCERTs. Polity, we have started class 9th, and if you are somebody who's new to the preparation, or if you are somebody who has prepared but finds it difficult to understand the concept and has a problem with foundation, you can attend these classes. These will be very beneficial to you. Okay. Next is, so here you have to remember these 6 rights. Speech and expression, you can make a story of it. So for example, we know for a fact that 19 is speech and expression. That is the most basic right that any human being can have. You cannot take anyone's voice away, right? So speech and expression, if you're talking to somebody, how would you talk to somebody? By sitting somewhere in a group. That's how we talk, right? So speech and expression, after that there has to be a group. So there will be assemble. You can assemble peacefully. There will be an assembly. Now that you sit in a group, you realize, oh, this group is good. So this will become my group now. This will become my association now. This will become my friend group now. So from assembly, you went on to association. You made a group, particular permanent group of yours. Then now you are in a group, and you must have seen when you're in college and you have a group, you always go ahead and especially bunk classes, which you should not do, and roam around, right? You go to different places to visit. So after you have made an association, you can move anywhere. You would want to move anywhere, so you would move anywhere. Now when you moved somewhere, you realize, oh, this place is very beautiful and I would want to settle here. So next comes residing and settling. Now you want to settle somewhere, you want a job. Otherwise, how would you bear your expenses and have good experiences? For that, you need a job. So you need a profession. So my point is, whenever you're studying something, you just make any connection, right? You make any connection, you make a story so that you can remember it. So now we remember all the 6 rights in Article 19. First was speech and expression. For speaking, you need to sit somewhere in a group. So assemble peacefully. Then you sat in a group, you realize this group is good. So this is my group now. So association. Now you have a group, so you would want to roam around and move freely. So there will be move freely. Next right would be to move freely. Now you're moving freely and you realize, oh, this place is beautiful and you want to settle there. So next will be residing and settling somewhere. You want to settle somewhere. For that, you need a job to bear your expenses. So now next will be to have any profession or job or occupation. These are the 6 rights that are guaranteed to you in Article 19. Ma'am, clause 1 and 2 are, see, there are 2 things in this. I think you are a bit late. That is from Article 14. Article 14 has 1 sentence, and whenever in English language there is a big sentence and there are 2 parts in it, they are also called clauses. But those clauses are different from legal clauses. So for example, this is a legal clause. But in the same sentence, if there are 2 different sentences which are there, I would also call them clause, but that is English language clause. So what you are saying is English language clause. In Article 14, there is 1 sentence and there are 2 clauses, English language, not legal clauses. The first is equality before law, and the second is equal protection of laws. You can also call them expressions. All right, let's move on. Thank you so much, Purvi. Like I said, because I don't know what your name is, like I said, I would love to teach bilingual as well, but this is an English channel, so I have to continue with English, okay? All right, next is Article 20. Criminal cases. Now here there are 3 important points that you should remember. There are 3 important safeguards in this article. First is no ex post facto law. What does that mean? Please hold on to your question. Divyanshu, the daily class timing is 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, not Saturday, Sunday. Only Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. every day sharp. Okay, so first says no ex post facto law. What does that mean? That means that a person cannot be punished for a crime that became a crime later. What does that mean? Let's say in 2025, burning crackers or bursting crackers, fireworks after 10 p.m. was legal. There was no law prohibiting you from that. But in 2026, there became a law that if you burst crackers or if you burst fireworks, if you use fireworks after 10 p.m., it is illegal now. So maybe you used fireworks after 10 p.m. in 2025, but this became a law only in 2026. So you cannot be punished for using fireworks or for bursting crackers because you did that in 2025. Do you understand that? So when something becomes illegal now, you cannot be punished for doing that in the past. That is no ex post facto law. That a person cannot be punished for something that was not a crime when they did it. Now it can be a crime, but when they did it, it was not a crime. It was not illegal. So you cannot be punished for it. Second is no double jeopardy. What does that mean? That the state cannot punish the same person for the same crime twice. For example, let's say there's a person called Ram. He stole something, right? That person stole something, and for that he was put in jail for 1 year, right? Now he's done with his 1 year jail timing. The government cannot say, oh, maybe he needed to be punished more, so let's go ahead with the hearing again and punish him more. You cannot do that. The government cannot do that. So what does that mean? That a person cannot be prosecuted or punished twice for the same offense. If you have already been tried and punished for theft, you cannot be punished for the same theft again. That is no double jeopardy. Yes, mainly, yeah, that was just an example I gave you about fireworks, that if the bursting fireworks became illegal in 2026 after 10 p.m., you cannot be punished for it because you burst crackers in 2025 after 10 p.m. So that is no ex post facto law. Next is no self-incrimination. What does that mean? That a person accused of a crime cannot be forced to confess or give evidence against themselves. You remember, I mean, if you have seen some shows, you must have seen in especially American shows, if a person is in the court and the lawyer asks him, have you done this, or something related to the fact that that person can be convicted of the crime, and he knows that, he always says, I plead the fifth. What does that mean? I'm not going to answer this question because this question might hurt my case. That's exactly what it is. We have it in Article 20. No self-incrimination, meaning the police cannot force you to give evidence against you. If you have been convicted of something, if you are being charged with something, if you are saying that you have done something, the police cannot force you to confess that you have done it. The police cannot force you to give evidence against yourself. This is no self-incrimination. Otherwise, what will happen? Maybe they can push for it, right? They can use torture or some other method, and you will confess because you're tired and you've already been beaten up and now you don't want it to continue. So that is not allowed. That is no self-incrimination. So in Article 20, which is protection of criminal cases, there are 3 important safeguards that you are given. First, no ex post facto law. Second, no double jeopardy. And third, no self-incrimination. Is it clear to everyone? Yes, I hope it is clear to everyone. Great. The next is so yes, and the session is going to be of 40-45 minutes every day, so that you have enough information to remember what we have studied and not so much that it becomes information overload. Next, we have Article 21. Article 21 talks about protection of life and personal liberty. This means this says no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Now, this part is very important. This part becomes very important. Why is it important? I'll tell you in a while. Can anybody tell me what exactly this procedure established by law means? Can anybody tell me what does it mean? By the time you're answering, remember this 15, 16 and 19 articles are only for citizens. Are only given to Indian citizens, right? So the 6 rights in Article 19, the 6th freedom in Article 19, Article 15 and Article 16, these are only for Indian citizens. These are not for foreigners or the people who are from outside and they're living in India but they do not have Indian citizenship. Yes, what does that mean? Ma'am, but crime is crime. If somebody will murder and have jail punishment completed, after coming he will... Okay. Then, see, what you are asking is not double jeopardy. Double jeopardy would be, let's say somebody has committed a crime. Let's not go with murder. Let's go with theft only. Why talk about murder? So let's say somebody committed a crime and the theft, or let's say murder. He has been given the jail time of 10 years, 15 years. Now he comes out. He cannot be prosecuted and punished for the same murder. That is no double jeopardy. If he commits murder again, then he'll be prosecuted for it. Then he'll be jailed again. But for the same murder, he cannot be prosecuted and punished. That is no double jeopardy. You understand it? See, what you're saying is, if somebody has done it once, they can do it again, and that is human nature. Yes, they can do it again, but then we are also not giving them any chance to reform themselves. And we live in a society, especially modern society, it talks about reforming. You'll understand this in sociology if that is your optional. Where in the traditional society, we just talked about removing that person from society, but in modern society, because we are interdependent and interconnected, we want people to reform, and that is why we do not push them out of society. Okay? Yes. As per Constitution, ensure actions are taken according to formal legal procedure established by law. Yes, very good. So it basically means that procedure was properly followed. First, whatever law is there, that law has to be fair, and this was given after Menka Gandhi case, and I will explain it to you. And the second, that proper procedure should be followed. So what is Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty? That no person can be deprived of their life and liberty except according to law. So if somebody has committed a crime, of course, we cannot provide them with this, right? So except according to law. There are some safeguards even after arrest. What safeguards are there? See, that is a different discussion altogether, whether there is less chance of reformation or not. Maybe there are less chances of reformation. Maybe there are more chances of reforming. But the point is, we have to give them the chance. If they spoil it, that's on them. Then we can punish them again. But we have to at least give them a chance to reform themselves. Okay? Alright, so even after a person is arrested, according to this, you must tell them the reason for arrest. You cannot arbitrarily arrest somebody and not tell them why they are being arrested. Right? Preventive detention is a different case. We will talk about that later. So when somebody is arrested, they should be communicated the reason. They should be told what reason is there for them to be arrested. Second, they must be produced before magistrate within 24 hours. This is must. Like I said, preventive detention we'll talk about later. We are just talking about normal arrest. So they must be produced before a magistrate within 24 hours. And then they have the right to conduct and have a lawyer. They have a right to have a lawyer to defend themselves. These three things ensure that even the person who has maybe committed a crime, we are not sure of it yet because they haven't been convicted, they are also given liberty. They are also given right to life. They are also given right to not just life, dignified life and personal liberty. Got it? So there are some safeguards provided to people who are even being arrested, and they should be properly followed. Then only we will call it procedure established by law. Then only we'll say that the procedure was followed. Is it clear to everyone? Yes. Very good. Free legal aid is provided. Absolutely right. So the first is, if you're arresting them, arrest them according to law. It should not be arbitrary. Then they have some safeguards. First safeguard being, you have to tell them why you're arresting them. They have to be produced before magistrate within 24 hours. And they have a right for free legal aid. They can have their own lawyer. So these are some of the safeguards that are provided even for people who are arrested. Now, procedure established by law earlier simply meant that the procedure is followed, right? But after Menka Gandhi versus Union of India case, Supreme Court said that the law that you are making also has to be fair. Otherwise, what will happen is the government will make any law, and just because proper procedure is followed, that will be allowed, right? The government can make any law, and just because proper procedure is followed, that can be allowed. So that is not allowed. That's what Supreme Court said, that it also includes fair law. The law also has to be fair, and then the procedure has to be followed. That's what it means to be That's what it means from this part, this particular clause of this sentence. Procedure established by law means that the law has to be fair and then proper procedure should be followed. So somebody was arrested because they stole something, and stealing is, there's a law that stealing is wrong and you will be arrested for it, right? So it's a fair law. First condition fulfilled. Then proper procedure. Proper procedure is when they are being arrested, they are told why are they being arrested. They should be produced before magistrate within 24 hours, and then they have a right to free legal aid. So because of all of this, now every part is followed. This is procedure established by law. So no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Is this clear to everyone? Is this clear to everyone? Better ignore. If somebody is spamming, just ignore it. I told you, I think in the last class, that this is a life skill that you're learning. Whenever you find, this is what I call noise. Noise is something that you should not be focusing on. Whenever you find noise anywhere in your life, in the class, anywhere, ignore it. This is the best life skill that you can have in your life. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Okay. That I do not know, Prabhat. Is it clear to everyone? So I hope up until now, every point is clear. We are done until Article 21. After this, we will not go in this depth because these articles were very important and I had to tell you so that you can actually understand. These are some of the articles where students are especially very confused, like what is equality and why are we going for reservation and all these things. These require critical thinking. So I went in a little depth. We did not go in actual depth, but I went into a little depth about these articles specifically. After this, the articles that we are going to cover until Article 32, which are all the fundamental rights that we have, we will not be going in depth. We will stick to NCERTs. Okay. So I hope everyone is clear with this question. Do you have any questions? Is everyone clear? All NCERTs will be done? No. Divyanshu, after polity, this is class 9 polity. After that, I'll do class 10th polity and 11th polity. After that, we'll do geography. And once we are done with geography, then we'll go ahead with economy, I suppose. So not only polity, we'll be doing almost every polity. Yes, and we'll be also be doing science. We'll be doing science NCERTs as well. We'll be doing every NCERT. So this gets very confusing when there are a lot of messages. I'm trying to look at the messages also. I'm trying to respond to you as well. No, this chapter is not done, beta. Tejaswini will be doing the rest of the articles, Article 22 to 32 in tomorrow's session, and then this chapter will be done. Then I just have to tell you about PIL. It will take hardly 1 minute or so, and that's it. Yes. Great. Do you have any questions, anyone? If you do not have any questions, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have any questions from here? Okay. Great. So my question to you is, we talked about arrest here. What is preventive detention? This is something you will tell me in the comment section. Preventive detention. What is preventive detention? And can this be misused? This is your question. What is preventive detention and can this be misused? Now see, when I talk about answer writing, I just want you to start writing about different ideas. That's it. Once you start writing, you process everything in your head and then you start putting it on paper. Your critical thinking improves because your thinking becomes streamlined, right? So you'll be writing this question in the comment section and tomorrow I'll tell you which student's answer I felt was the closest to what I was asking. Okay? So that's it for today's session. And for those of you who are new here, we have our sessions at 6 p.m. every day, Monday to Friday. And I really hope to see you all tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we'll be done with Polity class 9th NCERT and we'll start with class 10th NCERT the day after. So that's it for today's class. Thank you so much, Harry. And for the rest of you also, you have been very kind in the comment section. Do answer this question and also let me know if you like the session. And do not forget to like the session after the session is over. I saw that yesterday some of you were talking about the question, but you were in the comment section of live chat. Not in the live chat. You have to write in the comment section. That's a different section. Okay, once the class is over, maybe after 15-20 minutes, you can see that the chat option, the comment option is open, then you can write there. Okay, so that's it for today's session. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow again at the same time, 6 p.m. Until then, take care.